Start, I think. Is there anyone else outside coming in? If not, we might just close the doors, please, on that side. Okay, before we start, we have two VIPs who've arrived in the room. And you know, if they hadn't done what they did many years ago, none of us would all be together in this room today. Because we've just discovered that Dave's mother and father are here, and they were the ones who gave him his first computer and set him on the way. And without Dave, we wouldn't all be together, or we wouldn't have this event. So I think if we could get our two VIPs to stand up and we give them a big round of applause. And I think while they're there, I just want to repeat what's been said this morning. Sincere congratulations to David and all of the team of students here for the fantastic work you've done in putting the event on today. Again, we've just been talking to Stephen about it, and certainly again, Mark and the other speakers, we've been hugely impressed, and it's a great credit to everyone, and those who were here earlier would have seen Jim Brown really put down a marker saying that this was a very important event, and talking to him outside, I know that because it's important because it's student-led, which is crucial. I'm not going to delay, because one thing I'm absolutely certain, and I can say with certainty, is you didn't come to hear me speak, but you came to hear this man speak, Stephen. All I will say is, because I'll even do his own introduction, his title is Academic Engagement Manager. I come from an education setting. If Stephen was speaking in an education setting, we probably wouldn't have enough chairs here, because he has huge credibility in the work he's done over many years. A while ago, he was just being asked about his voice projection during this presentation, and his response, which I think says it all, is, well, for 15 years, I would have been shouting without a mic at some student down the back when I was in DCU or in Tala IT. So that's his background. He's been there as a lecturer in third level, and he's moved on. So ladies and gentlemen, a really warm Galway welcome for Stephen Howell.
Thank you very much, Bernard. I hope you can all hear me. Mike is happy? Yes? Okay, the check's in the post, Bernard. Thank you. So my name is Stephen. Thank you for the warm introduction. I used to be a lecturer. I'm not a lecturer anymore. This feels like Lecturers Anonymous. I used to be a lecturer for 15 years, I'd set CAs all the time. Sometimes I couldn't help myself. I'd set 2 practicals in one day. But no, it's strange to be standing here talking to students and lecturers and faculty and members of the public who've wandered into the wrong room. It's because usually I was giving lectures on boring computer science, software development, computer games development, and things that the students didn't find interesting, but I thought was really sexy, like interactive data visualization and all this stuff, which the students really hated. So when I was talking about programming and software development and everything else, if I was teaching first years, my focus was always on the fact that I had been a software developer in the trenches, in real life, as they say, in industry. I actually was that programmer. I wrote that code. And I was a programmer in lots of companies. I started off as a junior guy in IBM, and after many years I worked in lots of different companies. But all along the way, I was the techie guy. I was the guy on the team that even if you were the younger guy, if the computer started making strange noises and smoke came out, they'd come over to me. And I wasn't the guy in charge of fixing the computers, but they kind of knew that Stephen was geeky and into fixing computers and would probably answer the question. And that's okay when you're the young graduate and you're into the computers and you go home and you build computers because you're in the computer society and you're so geeky, you have a hat which says geek on it. I actually do have a hat which says geek on it, but I left it in the car. The thing is that when you are obsessed with computers or technology or whatever your area is, you tend to have a narrow worldview of it, and you identify as your job. You say, I am a programmer. Now, the thing is, that's not a bad thing when you're a young graduate, which some of you will be. I'm reducing the volume on the phone. So, it is, however, a bad thing later on in your career, because you'll start thinking, do you know what, maybe it's time to move on to the next company. Maybe it's because you want to move to a new country or a new city, or maybe there's just a really cool job that you want to get. And that's where the challenges start coming in for the people like I was, who are obsessed with the nuts and bolts of their career, which is, for my case, computer programming. Your case could be anything. And the same thing happened to my brother and sister. We all went to the same university. I don't know if it's a symptom, but my sister, like in the family business, we're all engineers and scientists, apart from my brother. He studied marketing. It's a great shame on the family. But he had the right idea. I was in a class of 300 computer programmers. There was one girl. He was in a class of 300 marketing and Japanese students. He was the only guy. He married one of them. So maybe he had the right strategy, I don't know. For a long-term life plan, he may have had his head, in the game better than I had. But if you look at the whole world of your industry, your profession, there comes a point when they are not looking to hire you because you're good at typing in the code. My sister, they're not looking to hire her because she's good at doing the biology. I don't know what she does, but it's biology. Okay, chemistry stuff, I don't know. I think she's making meth, I don't know. But if you look at what people do, in every career, there's the young graduate who's good at the nuts and bolts, and you identify them, and you keep them doing that because they're good at it. And after a while, you say, you have to put someone into management or a team lead position, or maybe you're moving to a new company, so you're trying to make yourself look good to get that job. And they don't put you in that position. But you're so good at typing in that code or making that math or whatever it is you do. Why aren't you put into the leadership position? And they say something really scary and upsetting to you, like soft skills, or you can't communicate, or you never document. And that's upsetting because you're good at typing in that code. And how dare they sort of diminish your amazing code typing abilities? And they're not diminishing you. What they're saying is that there's more to a career path. There's more to a job than being good at one thing. You have to be good at lots of things. And here's the really scary thing. At the multinational level, where I left academia, Microsoft rang me up. They sent me, they said, we'd like you to interview for this position. I wasn't sure. They sent me a photograph of a big pile of money, so here I am today. I'm joking about that in the live stream, by the way. It was Instagram. But the thing is that when we're talking about multinationals, they have a different approach to hiring because they can't wait a couple of years to find out if you have those soft skills and everything else. They kind of need to know at hiring time. So you'll be assessed roughly on these large companies in multiple ways. Some of it will be academic excellence. Bad news there, yeah, you have to get good grades. Now I am talking about graduate positions rather than I've 20 years work experience, but I only have a past degree. That's okay. What they're talking about is if you want, in first day out of college or university, a job, you'd want to be good academically. Now, I'm not saying that so some of you will stand up and run out of the room because you hate exams. You can always work around I'm not great at exams, but look at my amazing project work. But if you don't have at least one good thing to point at, you need to work harder. I hate saying that, students, but that's life. So academic excellence, even though you mightn't agree with you have to have a first or something like that, is still a criteria that many HR departments will look at. The second is, can you technically do the job you're claiming you can do? Can you actually code? Can you actually do the stuff? Sorry, was that me? Try not to do this. So if you can't technically actually do it, well then it's going to be a very short career, right? But you'd be surprised that they also ask you to test your code. Prove that you can do this thing you've said you do. You've written a program which sorts 1,000 numbers. Prove that it's as fast as it can be under the following criteria or whatever it is. And many people miss that sort of section. They go, oh, I didn't know I had to do that. And then it goes on, but if you skip over the are you a nice person to work with type of tests, psychometric tests and personality tests, what sometimes we refer to as the a-hole test. I don't like saying bad words on stage. Well then, you get to the final point where multinationals are looking for your passion. Now, I hate using that word because a lot of people think you have to jump up and start screaming, I love programming, but it's not that type of passion. It's the passion where you can show that you've gone and differentiated yourself from the other students. You've gone above and beyond the average student experience. That could be being the treasurer of the Computing Society, or organizing Synapse, or being in the Coder Dojo and helping out. I mean, there are so many opportunities for the modern student to distinguish themselves that you'd have to actively avoid talking to people to not have had an opportunity to do it. Now, Should you do it at the expense of your college work? I don't think so. I think you can do both comfortably. Don't go overboard in it. Maybe don't be the member of every society, but be involved in the ones that you're interested in and passionate about. And if now, you're going to get more, you're going to get more interest from a company when you say, I'm in the computing society, I'm in the coder dojo, then you say I'm on the football team. Not that they're against football, it's not as exciting. If you say you coach football to the under 12s, that's interesting. Oh, and that's different. You're making an effort to be part of a team and a community. Am I doing something different? No? Okay. So if we look at passion, and that's kind of what I want to show you today, often the passion bit is about, can you show us some work you have done, which was not coursework set by the lecturer, which was not something you were required to do, but which you did anyway. And what does that mean? Do you leave me? Don't talk, or do talk in front. So I will talk in front of these ones. So what does that mean? So it means, can you show a portfolio of your work? I only just met him.
You can just put that anywhere, it doesn't matter.
Okay. Thank you. There we go. So, can you hear me? Excellent. So the portfolio is the most common thing I present to students on and say, please build a portfolio. Anyone here in first year? Anyone here in second year? Anyone here in third year? If you think about it, you've already done 1, 2, or 3 years amount of work which you've thrown away. Now you submitted it to the lecturer who gave you a grade, and if I was to threaten you right now with serious physical torture, you would not be able to tell me what half of those projects were. Because as soon as you click submit on Moodle or Blackboard or WebCT, you would, thank God I don't have to think about that awful project ever again. But the catch was that project was work you had done, work which, I'm going to keep talking, work which was unique to you in some cases, or was the same project everyone did, but it doesn't matter. You had created something. It was something visual, something you could show, something you could see. And do you have that in a digital portfolio right now? No. And I will admit, I don't either. Because when I went to college, many, many years ago, I didn't keep any of the projects either. I won an award for one of my projects. And I could tell you about it, but I can't show you anything, so I could be making it all up. I won the Nobel Prize for my third year project. Prove I didn't, you know? Well, that one's easy to prove. But anyway, the thing is that when you think about it, you're building up a body of work which differentiates you as a student. Yet you're going to show up for an interview and you're going to say, I'm a really good coder and I love coding and I want to code for you. And I would say, that's brilliant. I want to hire you. Can you show me some of the amazing projects you've done? And you say, no, but I can tell you about them. Okay, but why can't you show me? Because I forgot to keep a record of it. It's kind of an easy thing to do, but let's admit it, most people don't do it. Now, I'm not saying there needs to be a university-wide enforced, you must build an e-portfolio. I think it'd be brilliant if every university did it, but I'm saying is that you can take responsibility for this yourself. You can say, even if there isn't the head of department said I must have an e-portfolio, even if learning services didn't come in and demand I do it, I'm going to do it anyway. This becomes incredibly important when students say to us, I want to work making apps. And we say, that's great, we want to hire you to make apps. And we say, have you ever made an app? Oh yeah, I've made loads on my degree. I say, can I see one? Oh, take out your phone there and show me. Oh no. Why not? Well, see, because I designed the app, and I coded the app, and I tested the app, and I showed it to all my friends, and I submitted it for marks. But I never installed it on my phone. Well, why didn't you? Well, that wasn't part of the exam process. No one's given me marks for that, so I didn't bother doing it. Okay, but if I went to art college, no I didn't, but if I went to art college, it would be a travesty of the application process, but if I went to art college and I started painting away and I painted and I painted and I painted for 4 years and I get a diploma in being a good painter and I rock up for a job at the painting place and they say, oh excellent, oh you have a very good CV, can I see some of your pictures? No. Why not? Oh, I threw them out. Yet as computer programmers, we actively throw away the digital ephemera that we've created as part of our coursework because once it's gotten a grade, we don't care about it anymore. This is a mistake, because you will be asked at interview, can we see a sample of your work? Now, when you say portfolio, I'm not an artist. Yes, you are an artist. You're a computational artist. You're a creator if you make apps. Now, some of you are going to say, I actually can't make an app. I say, okay, maybe you're doing a games degree, you can make a game. And some say, well, I can't make a game. Well, okay. So as part of today's talk, right now, in fact, I'm going to make an app and make a game with you. It's going to be one that you could show to someone. And they might say, well, wait a minute, you're not a programming student, how'd you do it? And you would say, well, look, it's not hard to do, you just have to put in the time to learn it. And this is what I have created. Okay, so let's make a game. Anyone interested in computer games? No one. One person, very good. This is Project Spark. Now, I'm going to kill Project Spark stone dead. No, I won't kill it actually, I'll just come back out. Switch on my controller. So I'm actually using an Xbox controller to do this. And it's not some special, modified one. It's actually one I nicked off the kids' console before I came out today. They're probably not impressed with that, but that's okay. Now, I have sound going into this, but I'll switch it off in case it interferes. So, let me talk a bit about this for a second. This is a tool we use to teach computer programming to kids. It looks like, well, it looks like a lot of fun. It kind of is a lot of fun. I'm going to pretend it's really serious. This is very serious. But to be honest, this is a tool which lets you create a 3D virtual world, and it's free. It's available on Xbox One and Windows 8. It's coming to Xbox 360 at some point. Do you want me to just shout?
I'll just leave it on.
Okay. Thank you. I'm happy to just shout, by the way. If at any point I can't walk because of all the audio gear, I'm just going to shout. So this tool looks like I'm going to be making a game and playing a game. Really, this is a tool you can use to teach computer programming. And if you can't code, you can use it to learn. I think teachers will use this as an educational tool. And when I use this in Coder Dojo, I am mobbed. So let's just create a 3D world here. So I'm going to start with a completely empty world and completely go from blank. This is made by Team Dakota, who are based in Redmond in Seattle. So I currently have the fantasy pack installed. I don't have a space pack installed. So even though you see the space guy, I'm afraid that our hero is going to be this guy here. Oh, there he is. And he's the hero of our adventure. And we can change that. So if you're teaching girls and you want to have a girl character, you can switch to that. If you're teaching Yetis, you can actually have a Yeti character. If you are teaching Yetis, though, I want an invite to that Coder Dojo. So we can interact with our virtual world in a number of different ways. So you see our hero here? He has a default brain. I'm going to hold my controller like this for the photograph. Now, it's a photograph of a man who doesn't know how to hold an Xbox controller. So when we're talking about the virtual world, we have complete control over what happens here. Let's zoom out for a minute and say that this is a grey, flat, disk set in the ocean. It's kind of depressingly flat and grey. It's kind of like the Midlands. We want instead to go in and make it a nice looking world. And we do this with our virtual cursor. Do you see this glowing orb here? That's our virtual paintbrush. And I can actually make that a much bigger paintbrush. We'll scale it up a bit. And we want to put some nice green grass on the ground. There we go. We'll paint some grass on. So it's not so depressing anymore. And at any point, I can go into test mode and actually start running around my virtual world. And our hero in this virtual world, he has a default brain, which means that the things he can do are the standard things you can do in a game where your hero is in third person, you're running around. If you've ever played Xbox, you know what I'm talking about, or any console. So when I press the left stick, he runs around. If I just barely touch the stick, he walks, and then eventually he runs, right? This controls the camera, so I can't see what I'm doing, but the camera should be spinning around. And if I press A on my console, he jumps. I press it twice, he jumps twice as high. And he's a normal guy, just like you and me. He can throw a punch, just like you. You shouldn't punch people, though. It's not nice. He can roll, just like you. He can throw fireballs. Just normal guy things, And The thing is that all of that is programmed into him by default, but we can change everything. And let's change a little bit of it first here. So I'm going to zoom in here on our hero. Whoop, there he is. I tend to drive far too fast with this controller. Too much Forza, and here we go. And I'm going to go into his brain, and his brain you might expect to be computer code, and it is if you're a computer programmer, but if you're 10, it's just pictures of things you want to happen. And if you put them in the right order, things happen, which is really what computer programming is, though we make it a lot harder because it's a degree in computer programming. So we're going to go in down here and find the Y button, and the Y button currently shows fireballs, and we're going to remove that and instead say that he should wave because he's a friendly guy, you know. So appearance, emote, and the emote should be a greeting. So that's a very quick change, and all I've done is select on my controller what I want to have happen. I haven't typed anything yet. Okay, so let's run, and in our test mode, I'm going to swivel the camera around so we can see him. There we are, and I press Y, and he waves. So I haven't had to do very much programming there, but I've changed the behavior based on the input. So we can change the world a bit. Some of you might be saying this looks like a game that we bought recently. And when I say we bought, I mean we bought the company. So it's called Minecraft, and we can come in here and make a mountain. So let's make a mountain. Now, if we had the sound on, there's really cool sound effects. I can go in and have a look at the mountain I've just made. And I think I'll make it a bit easier to get up that mountain. And now I'm going to paint it in. And you can see the paintbrush knows when it's on a mountain and puts cliffs on. Makes it look nice. So I can now go and test this out. Assuming I didn't put the mountain on top of my character, I should be able to run up that mountain, more or less. I might have to jump a bit. So there's the mountain I just made. It's kind of hard to get up that bit. So if you put his house up here, we really should have thought about the planning permission a bit harder. So we can add props to the world. So, for instance, I can go down here, and if you were a teacher and you're using this to do history with your students, you can create a recreation of a medieval monastery. You can put characters in who look like monks and are wearing monk-like clothes. You can create a round tower and put a stone texture on it. And then you can create Vikings to come and attack it. And you can get students in multiplayer to create this. I think it's 4 maximum at a time, and then play it together. Think about the learning experiences that you can talk about, and imagine speaking to an employer saying, yeah, so I was in the Coder Dojo and I thought we'd make a history, cool history demo, and this is what we made. It's a recreation of an Irish monastery. I mean, they are going to be impressed. Now they might say, wait a minute, did you do all those graphics? Well, no, this is a tool for doing this type of thing. But then again, if you think about it, most software use is just you got the tool which already did it and you figured out how to use it. So no one's going to say, oh, you didn't code a 3D engine from scratch. How dare you come in here? No, that's not going to happen. So let's add a house. As you can see, I've got lots of this stuff. Okay, I give up. I'm going to type house. There's an outhouse, rustic outhouse. So the hard life for this guy is the outhouse is at the top of the mountain. If you don't know what an outhouse is, you're lucky people. So, there's his outhouse. Now, it's a haunted outhouse. So if we're going to program the brain of this outhouse, that if this outhouse is bumped into by the player, so if bump object player, so if bumped, or sorry, when bumped by object player, I don't know if you can see that, we're going to create scary monster then, okay? So do create an object which is from our gallery. Let's go with I'll let you guys pick the monster. What monster do we have? Squirrel's not really a monster as such, though I appreciate you may have had a very traumatic experience, and I'd love to hear about that offline, maybe with a counsellor. So we're going to create a goblin scavenger, And we'll see what happens when we do that. So we come back out to play, and before I do that, I'm actually going to move my hero closer to it because I'll spend all day running up to it. So we'll go to him, and pick him up, and fly him up here. There we go. Okay, so now when we run, he should be up near the outhouse. Now, if you think about the little narrative we've made, our hero desperately wanted to use the outhouse, but when he got there, oh no, what happened? Well, here if you're in a coder dojo with 10-year-olds and 7-year-olds like I normally am, you can imagine saying to them, did that do what we wanted? They would say no. You would say, right, okay, here's a little learning thing that I can talk about how I've learned. This code said, when bumped by Claire, create Goblin Scavenger. But it didn't say to only create one. Now, I'm not going to tell you how, but I would like you to download and figure out which tile you could add one tile, which will only create one goblin. And have fun with that. Oh, and the last thing I'll show you is, I love this paintbrush. I have a paintbrush which paints on feckin' trees. So let's go down here and I'll make it bigger. Big trees. So imagine creating your entire virtual world the way you want it. Buildings, trees, mountains, rivers. Well, let's go for a river. You know, yeah, we've got rivers and tunnels and all sorts of mad stuff, you know. And again, imagine giving that to kids and saying, use your imagination to create a world and create a story for me. And that's what we use to teach programming, because there's certain stories they can't create unless they can do the little bits of programming that we want them to learn. For you, this is a tool that you can use, which is free. I mean, you can buy add-on packs like a desert and the Arctic, but you don't have to buy them. And if you were to buy every add-on pack, I think it's 40 quid. But don't buy the add-on packs if you don't need them. Like, you can buy a zombie pack. I haven't bought the zombies myself. I haven't found a learning situation where zombies are required. Though I think I'm probably behind the curve there. Every TV program appears to have zombies. I'm waiting for prime time to start adding in zombies just because everyone else is. But anyway, if we come out of, we're going to say goodbye to that. I want to talk a little bit, and I have a few more minutes, I hope. I want to talk a little bit to you about the concept of making an app. It is very hard, if you're a computing student, to come up with the idea for what the app should be, because we tend to think of exemplary, amazing apps that we've seen and say, how do I do that? If it's a brilliant game or a brilliant app. I think you need to think differently. I think you need to think about your own interests and build the app around them. So, for example, I have a friend who's a lecturer in culinary arts. Now, I can't cook. I like to eat the food, but I don't know how to make it. And he had made a cookbook about the Northeast, cuisine of the Northeast. I live in County Louth, which is in the Northeast. And he had 100 recipes from restaurants around there. And you can actually see an app on my screen called Cuisine Ireland there, the green one at the bottom. And in this app, what he did was he wanted an app, and he had applied to this program where you get a grant to develop your book or whatever, your business, whatever it is. It's called the Leader Program. You may have heard of it. Counties do it. And one of the requirements was he had to have an app. Now, the app could be on your Apple device, on iOS, on your Android device, or on your Windows device. But the problem was that he couldn't code on any of them. He's a lecturer in culinary arts, not in computer programming. So because he's really good at cooking, and I live near him and I'm friends with him, and he also is very good at picking out wines, I went over to his house to make an app. And over 2 hours we made this app, and this is Cuisine Ireland, and I made all of this, even though I am a programmer, I made all of this without programming. And I think I was in his house for about 2 hours, but anyway, there was a lot of wine drunk, so I'm not sure. But if we scroll up here, this app allows you to do the following. It shows you random pictures of 15 different recipes in his book. So the very first thing you see here are these nice pictures, and I want to point out is that I didn't take them because I can't take pictures of food like that. Dermot, my friend, went on a course to learn how to take these pictures. So he took the pictures for his book, so he already had the content, and this is where the students trying to make apps fall down repeatedly. A student doing culinary arts who has to take a picture of the meal they've prepared as part of their coursework every Tuesday in a double lab or whatever it is, has more content than a computing student in fourth year who can code amazing things because they haven't bothered to document the work they've done. It's back to the portfolio. Whereas a culinary arts student is building a portfolio every day that they go into college because they learn how to make something and they document it. Imagine if they could easily, in a template, put that content in and generate the app. So if I select one of these, the instructions to make it appear along the bottom, and you can scroll. I'm scrolling this with my finger down here. And they can go back then, and they can press About the Chef, and they can click on a link to go buy the book. And this is a free app in the Windows 8 store, which is made in a couple of hours, and it's been certified and accepted. And it was done without programming. The hardest thing in this was copying and pasting his recipes from Word into Excel. So I want to show you how I made that. And I did it with a thing called Microsoft Project Sienna, which is also free. And it's a Windows 8 app. And in it, it lets you, from a completely blank canvas, add things like, labels, and you can start worrying about the fonts. And this is where all your design skills come in. But here I will admit my terrible secret. I was born without any design skills. Okay, my family kept me hidden away from the world because I know design. But that doesn't matter, because I can change the font. Look at that. I don't know what that font is. I don't know. Oh, there we go. Back to that font. I really like that font. I can change the color. Again, I don't have any design skills, but that's blue. It's not that blue or that blue, but it's a blue. I'm kind of colorblind. Anyway, so when we go over here, we can do all sorts of things with the positioning, the padding, and everything else. But the end result is that without knowing how to do certain things, like how to make a slider, you can add a slider, that you see in an app, and it'll do slider things, and you don't have to know how to program it or any of those other things. And what's really exciting here is when we do this with marketing and business students, they get really excited because they're saying, well, wait a minute, I had to do a project on any town in Ireland last year, and it had to be a town I didn't have a connection with. And I had to go and get photographs and videos and all that stuff, and I had to build a website about it. How is this different from that? And I say, that's ideal you've done that because you have the content. So this is Websites 2.0. This is wrapping the website content inside an app that you can easily install in your computer, distribute through a store, and monetize if you want, though I don't recommend it because it's something you need to learn a lot about. And when you start doing things like this, a lot of it comes down to where the data comes from. Now, this is where we check, am I online? I'm not online. I was online earlier on, but when I walked into this room, it knocked me off. But I'll tell you, because I want to go a little bit quicker on something else. You can specify any database that's publicly facing the web, and the computer people will know what I'm talking about. And it will connect to it, pull the data in and say, how do you want me to show this in a grid or a list or whatever it is? Now, the computing students who are in second or third year will know that's thousands of lines of code and effort and hassle, and it does it in about 5 clicks. Now, instead of going rage and smashing your laptop because you had to learn all that other stuff, think of it as an amazing prototyping tool that you can quickly show. Let's say you're in the photography club in the college. You've got a Flickr account? Of course you have. You're in the photography club. You've taken all those pictures. Maybe you're a hipster and you have an Instagram account. Maybe you're really busy on Facebook. Maybe you're like me and you're on Twitter. Anyone on Twitter? 3 people. Okay. Get on Twitter, guys. Come on. And you can easily specify that source of data and have it displayed in a beautiful way and click one button to publish it and then rock up to that interview and say, let me just take my tablet out. Yeah, I made this app. And you're not necessarily the world's best coder. But you're not claiming to be the best coder. What you're saying is, I use the tools available to me to quickly produce something that looks well, that's using my content. It's not like I nicked the pictures of the food, I took them. And that's incredible. And that's something that very few students do. The last one is, let's make a mobile app. So my phone is over here. And what we get students to do with this, and this includes marketing students who've never, had a day of coding, not even an hour of coding experience. People like the black sheep of my family, my brother, who are marketing experts but don't know what computers are. Well, they use the following tool. And I'm hoping Firefox decided it's going to update now. Okay, so I still have no internet access, guys. Is it worth trying to reconnect? Someone will help me. Okay, so he's going to give me the username now. 98. So guys, don't listen. 9876. 001. T for Tommy. The password is super secret password.
That wouldn't happen if that was Windows Phone, would it?
Now, if it was Windows Phone, it would happen if you hadn't switched off that. So B, Z, A, B, E4. It's too late, Firefox. You've betrayed me with your can't be bothered opening up on time. Why did your phone switched off? How do you make phone come on again? Hit phone?
Hit phone.
Hit phone good.
It's probably just, oh, here we go. Dying, sorry.
Why don't you call out that password?
YPZCE6897.
Did it work?
Yep.
Okay, there we go. So I'm going to appstudio.windows.com, and I'm very quickly going to do this because we're out of time, but I wanted to show everyone this. You can see here that I've made lots and lots of apps, and these are all apps I make at demos because I go to different colleges and make them. And I just want to show you how quick it is to make an app. So you start off with an empty app template, and it will make an app for your Windows Phone and your Windows tablet that's called a universal app at the same time with one code base. And it gives you out the source code, and if you're a computing student, the language is C# with .NET. That's what it gives you out the code ready to go in Visual Studio. And I can come along and I can say, yeah, that's the type of app I want. And there's no programming here unless you understand what code is. It hides that from you. So you can come along and it'll offer you RSS feeds. You know what RSS feeds are? Yeah, most people are nodding. You know what HTML is? That's text and pictures. YouTube, Flickr, Bing, Facebook, and Instagram feeds. You pick any 6 of those. They could all be 6 Facebook feeds if you wanted. So you could have all the Facebook feeds officially and unofficially in the college and so on. It generates the complete app. Are we over time?
No, does Bing include the maps?
Bing includes everything that can be supplied as a text source right now. So that's the weather, the news, and a text search, full stop, and I believe an image search. But I don't think it includes maps. However, you can just download the code and add the maps in yourself. It's the same key. So, and I'm going to do very quickly here, I'm going to change the name to be Synergy, S-Y-N, Synapse, that's why I couldn't, I was thinking the Synergy Center in IT Tala. We're going to change the logo now. Sure, Synapse have a logo, but I don't have time to upload it. That's not probably the logo I'd go with, because I think you're a bit cooler than that. So there we go, that's kind of Synapse, no? Let's scroll down, lots of pictures, an anchor. A fish, no. What image represents Synapse in Galway the most? Christmas? Nah, there we go. That's what I was looking for. Now, and the RSS feed, now I don't know if Synapse had an RSS feed on their WordPress page. No, that's all right. HTML, you see, what you could hear is you say, Synapse is blah, blah, blah. And you go and you write all about Synapse, and you can bold and italics and the usual stuff, okay? And that section name would be about. And you can see, although I did lie, I have typed something, I haven't typed in any code, and it's showing me what it will look like. I can do a Windows preview as well. It's showing me what it will look like. If you had a YouTube feed of all the videos today, you can add in the YouTube feed. If you have a Flickr of all the photos that nice chap, he's gone now, was going around snapping earlier on, you can use it. For Bing, it's the same thing. You could do, show me all the news articles that are tagged with the word Synapse in Galway in the last 24 hours. Facebook, if you have a Facebook feed, it adds it all in. And I'm not going to do all of that because I don't have time. Instead, what I'm going to do is click on Themes. You can pick your colors, and this is the only time I'm going to make any fun. We could pick dark purple text on a black background and put that on our app, like the posters, if we wanted, or we could maybe not. So we'll go with that. There you go. That's very nice. And we can go to finish. Oh, better save it first. Oh, stay on the page. Did I save? Save. And then finish. Now, this is where it's really cool. In our last couple of seconds, when I hit generate, it goes off on the cloud, builds a complete app, even though it only says about synapses, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Then you can take your phone, and as soon as it's finished building it, you can scan the QR code it gives you. It will install the app locally on your phone for testing. And then you can click one button and publish it here. So a non-programmer who doesn't want to see the code, there it is, ready to go. You notice I haven't opened up Visual Studio or an editor, or I haven't typed a line of code yet. I'm after getting an email saying my app is ready. So here we go. Let me click that. I can, if you look down here, get the source code. There I am installing the app. So I've installed an app which I wrote without writing any code, and all it says is blah, 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 okay. But it can pull in YouTube and everything else. And that means that if you know what you're doing with code, you can go into the code. I'm going to hold it up there. You guys are too far away, but the last one in the middle there says Synapse. Hopefully you agree. And when I click Synapse, it opens up Synapse, about Synapse, blah, blah, blah. Now, that's not very impressive for just the Synapse, blah, blah, blah bit. But what is impressive is that I haven't typed any computer code, and I have a full project of code which takes in the data that I specify, builds it into an app, lets me test it on my phone, and is ready to open up inside an editor to do whatever I want with it, including add more functionality like maps or whatever it is. And that's all completely free and runs in your web browser on any computer. So we're getting at the point where you might say, but wait a minute, I'm worried I'm a computer programmer. Is this going to replace my job? Well, no, because we'll always need the computer programmers who can bring it to the next step. It's very hard to make Flappy Birds with App Studio, but it is very easy to make a content consumption app about your subject, your class, your football team, whatever it is that you're interested in, or even a portfolio about you. The app is called David. I won't say your surname in case you don't want everyone to know. The app is called David Murphy, and when you run it, it shows Synapse and all the cool stuff you've done. If you think about that, that portfolio app is hard to make, but with this, it's easy to make. You need to differentiate yourself. You need to stand out from the crowd. There's going to be a big competition for every job you ever go for. But you can beat that competition by playing smarter. You don't necessarily have to SWAT. You don't necessarily have to spend the hours in front of the books. What you need to do is use the gifts you have in a smarter way, be strategic, and you'll go very far. Thank you for listening to me. I hope you've enjoyed it. I will take questions, but that's all the lecturing at you I'm going to do. Thank you very much. Now, does anyone want to ask a question about anything?
I just hold a microphone here.
I'm going to tie my shoelace first because that was annoying me.
Thanks for that, Dave. Just a quick question on the second utility you showed us, and perhaps you might explain what was different about the second and third utilities. What functionality does the second one have that App Studio
Project Sienna is more aimed at people who know a little bit about how computers work, not necessarily programming, but they'd understand the concept of a data source like Excel and the concept of a representation of that data. So they'd be comfortable with Excel, say, and Excel formulae. Not coding, but like how to do a sum or a count if or something like that, which a lot of people aren't, and we don't judge them, just they're not familiar with that. So App Studio doesn't let you do any of that. App Studio says things like Facebook, Instagram, things that everyone knows. So one would be aimed at the know nothing really about computers. So App Studio, for instance, the last one I showed, I've done with GCSE students in Armagh, and they were making apps. They didn't know they were coding, or they didn't know there was code behind it. As far as they were concerned, it was an app on their phone. If you look over at the maybe third level students, Sienna is good for them as long as they're not phone oriented, they're tablet oriented. Okay, so I have two different tablets with me today. I have one made by Microsoft, the Surface, and I have one made by Nokia, which is called a Lumia tablet. And there's a big difference in price points in those. One's 1,000, the other's 200. But the difference is they both run the same app. So you could give one out, you don't mind if it gets broken, and the other one you keep for yourself, And the idea is that you know a little bit about the computer environment, you know a bit about data, and you can get it nicely looking on the screen. You can actually add a button and say, when I click this button, run this Excel formula. And that's powerful, but it's still not quite programming. Because the next level after that is actually opening up Visual Studio and typing it all in, and not everyone wants to go down there. So we would see them as different sort of tools for slightly different folks. One for completely new, one for slightly new. And they also deploy to different things. Okay? I hope that answers your question, sir. Anyone else want to ask a question? Yes, sir.
Just in regards to Project Spark.
Yes.
Now, you were doing the live demo on the laptop anyways, but the levels that you make, can you upload them and then they can be played on Xbox One and Xbox 360?
No, you can't play them on 360 till it's released. So Project Spark is not released for 360, but you'll be able to play them. Now, the graphics will probably be slightly less good on 360 than on Xbox One, but that's understandable. I'll show you what settings I have Project Spark at on my machine. I think I have them on medium. And this is an Ultrabook, but it doesn't have a dedicated graphics card of any great note. It doesn't have, like, I'm not going to say the maker, but it has the one most laptops have. And it's not designed for doing games, but it runs it okay. I have a gaming monster machine I built at home, which plays on maximum settings and is lots of fun. But in terms of performance, they're both kind of the same. You can share a maximum of 5 levels, I believe it is. And you can always change a level and remove an old level and put a new level up. So 5 games you can share. You can share them for free, and anyone can remix and play your levels. So you can share a level, and you could be just playing it, but you want to remix it, and you could take it and change it. And I can actually see how many people have remixed my levels, and they give you experience for everyone who downloads your level, everyone who gives it a "I like that," everyone who remixes it, and you can use that experience to buy new props. So that's how they monetize it. Or if you're like me, you can just pay the money and buy the props. Not because it's easier. So in a second, when it's finished downloading all the content on the network, that's probably what's slowing down your network, because I've bought 61 items, as you can see here. So the last item is a big one it's downloading. So I only downloaded them on my desktop, that's why it's busy there. So yes, you can share, and anyone can play them, and you can play them on different platforms. There's a multiplayer beta out at the moment on Xbox One, but I believe it's coming to all platforms. Any other questions? Yes, sorry, I didn't see you over there. You might want to shout, and I'll shout your question if you want. Oh, they have a mic, they have a mic. And I'm going to leave this up on the screen just for the student who asked, or the person, I don't know if you're a student, who asked if this was, what's the word? What settings it could run on the laptop, but video. So there you go, you can see those settings there. They're probably too high for the laptop, actually. Yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering, you said you've got .NET with C, but you don't use Visual Basic.
Microsoft hasn't really been promoting Visual Basic that I've seen for years, even before I joined them. And I'm not against Visual Basic. I actually put myself through university, paid for my fees back before they were free with Visual Basic, so I'm not against it, okay? Back then it was Visual Basic 3 or something, so I mean it's changed. And I think Visual Basic is a great learning language. But C# and Visual Basic are so close that it's very hard to have a very clear reason why you'd use Visual Basic instead of C#. Now there was a time they were very different, okay? But they have converged in a big way. Visual Basic, I think, has a nice niche in people who want to learn a certain amount of coding but are never going to have to worry about corporate writing, the C# stuff. However, it does require a level of coding much more than Sienna and App Studio. So we would actually see, I normally wouldn't mention it, but because we would see the progression, roughly, as being something like Scratch, Touch Develop, App Studio, Project Sienna, Visual Basic, and Visual Studio full C#, C++. And most people don't have to do all of that. Most people come in at one point and exit at another, and that's fine. But imagine you're 7 and you're going to learn everything. That's probably the route you'd go. Now, the one thing I didn't show today, because I didn't want to set it up, is the Kinect. I have the new Kinect, and I have it outside, and I'm going to show people you can interact with it. But I wrote the software that lets kids program that in Scratch. So I'm going around coder dojos, and we have a Kinect, and they have Scratch, and they love that. But very rarely do I see them going, oh, I wish I could build a GUI in Visual Basic. They don't really want to do that. They want to make games and things like that. So it's kind of sad in one way that that level of programming has kind of begun to disappear, and people tend to go to much harder stuff straight away. So you see a lot more people saying, oh, I tried Python and I really liked it, but then it got too hard. I like Python, but I don't want to lose people, And we need to have an easier, I think, progression of skill sets and tools so that we don't lose the people who go, well, I was enjoying Coder Dojo till they introduced that thing. Now I'm gone. And that thing could be anything. It could be Scratch for some people. It could be Visual Basic for others. So you have to have how do we fit this into quite a variety of tools and skill sets. And if you think about it, everyone has tools out. Like, Google have loads, we've loads, What's the right thing for the kids? I think let them try everything, have fun, find out what sticks and let them enjoy it and support them. In the more sort of academic and third level, should we be using Visual Basic? I think it depends on the students. I'm not against it, but I never get asked, can you come and do a session of Visual Basic? I get asked everything else, but never Visual Basic. And I think that's probably a sign of the fact that people are moving more towards C#. That's my feeling on it.
Yeah.
Okay? I hope that answers your question.
We're
Best questions I've ever gotten.
We're going to finish up. I think, Steve, it's a testament to the fact that it's lunchtime. Nobody is leaving. In fact, I've seen people come in here at this stage, and I know that certainly it's been a hugely engaging presentation. And on behalf of all of us who are on the floor here, I want to say a really, really sincere thanks for the passion you bring to it, the interest you bring to it, and your own life story you bring to it. So thanks from all of us, Dave, or Steve. Thanks for looking.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You put your hand on it.
We're going to have a break in here now until 2 o'clock. So the next sessions begin at 2 o'clock. And as you've seen in every session I've been here this morning, there's been some really practical advice and some really good advice. So spread the word out there, and thank you all for coming along. Mila Buyaka Slán.